Hey, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines, and this is a video that I have to make constantly because the message never seems to quite get home, and that's because so many people are looking for their partner or their forever after, as it's become known on certainly in the Philippines. And it's very difficult for us because some of the letters that I get are really touching. They're really heartwarming because it's not just women, by the way. It's both genders. It's both men and women, and they actually are seriously looking for someone to partner with. Now, some of the advice letters, quite a few of them, are all to do with love. I remember one of the quotes in one of my quotation books that I love to read, and it said, more has been written about the subject of love than any other subject. And that probably includes science, and though that doesn't surprise me either. So this really is to try to make a few suggestions that might help you to find the person that you really will connect with. Now, if you look at it, you must have, it's not just about having a clear view of what the other person must be like. So obviously you need to know what the qualities are of that person. Now, learning how to ask the right questions and learning how to ask the right questions up front, and not being afraid of losing that particular person, because depending on how tough, if you like, or how inquisitive or how thorough you are in the kind of questions that you ask, you could so easily end up with the wrong person and yet have never upset them. Well, while we may not, in our search for that right person, we may not obviously want to offend anybody. The important thing is not so much about offending the other person as the focus should be on finding out whether they are the one for you. Now, an absolutely vital part of finding out whether someone is for you is finding out whether you are the person you think you are. Now, a lot of people might think, certainly women, they might think that they would be totally fine on sitting on the couch every Saturday or whenever the sport that is the absolute passion of your loved one is on, and feeding him popcorn or getting another beer or anything like that. When you're living alone and you're looking so earnestly for that person that you would love to spend your life with, you might think that wouldn't be so bad. Maybe that wouldn't be so bad. Now, for me, to have to sit in front of a TV watching several hours of football or soccer or baseball, I would think that was a waste of time, because I could be having so much more fun just sticking pins in myself than watching that, because I have no interest whatever in those sports. And even for the love of someone that I adore, I wouldn't do it. Now, if you can translate that more easily to watching, say, a favorite program or a series, maybe even in another language than the one that you speak, and maybe you might think that would be totally okay. When it really comes down to it, it probably won't be okay. Any more than that dog barking in the background for absolutely no reason is okay. So you need to find out exactly what your own limits are, what your own boundaries are. Just hold on a second. Hey! Dogs! See, they'll listen to every word I say. So you need to find out what you yourself have as boundaries, and how much you are prepared to do in the name of love for the person that you're going to talk to and live with for the rest of your life. And if you don't have a clear idea of yourself, then it's going to be very difficult to make any kind of judgment as to whether someone else will suit you, because you haven't found out where you're standing. And that's really important. So this whole thing of trying to find the person for you is a little bit more complicated, and yet contradictorily it's actually easier in a way, because it starts with you. And with a little introspection, with a little bit of looking in at what you really like, then there's the way to finding out who would be right for you. Now, how do you find out who you are? I mean, this has been the philosophical search of, it's been the golden, the holy grail of self-searching throughout the history of man, I think. So we have to look at the kind of, if you're going to do a kind of a rough, this is a bum's rush through the kind of thing that you may have to do when you're looking into what your real beliefs are. So many of the times we have progressed from childhood along with the same baggage that we had as a child. Now, depending on where you were in the family, you may be the spoilt child who's told that he can absolutely do every single thing, only to find out that when he gets into the outside world, there are other people who have been told that they can do absolutely anything that they want, and they're better at it than he is or she is. So you may be spoiled and have the wrong kind of beliefs about what your abilities are, or you may be the middle child who's been beaten up by the older and by the younger and by the parents as well, because he gets blamed for everything. And so you have to find out who those voices are that tell you what you are, and we all have them. Those inner voices have to be singled out. You have to find out which voice was which. Now, I know the kind of thing that my mother would have told me, because she was, I believe, she was psychic. She knew when I was going to do anything wrong, and would say, "Terence," even if she was in the next room. I would say, how the hell can she do that? But she could. So, you need to find out who the voices are that are telling you you can and can't do things. And if you can find them, if you can find mommy, and you can find daddy, and you can root them out, tell them you're dead, or you're no longer here for me, so I don't have to listen to you as a voice in my head. You can eliminate them from that confusing number of voices that you think might even be you. And if you can find enough of them, label them and get them out of the way, Uncle Harry, who was so very good at telling you what you could and couldn't do, and Aunt Jessie, who told you you couldn't do anything, and then your mother, who believed in you no matter what you did, even though she never realized that you didn't tell her everything that you did, and then your dad, who may have been your best friend and mentor, and you don't want to get rid of him, but you do want to say, "Dad, you're not me, I'm not you." When you get rid of all of the voices, isolate them, name them, and set them to one side, whatever's left, whoever's left, might even be you. And once you've done that, and once you have found out who you are and what you really like, without the influence and voice over that we all have on the internal thing, the little voice that you hear is the one usually that puts you down. That's the one that if you said, am I really if you answered the question, are you really happy? And you say, yes, I am. The little voice is the one that says, oh yeah, right, what about the tax bill that you're so worried to death about? You're not happy. You need to get those voices in order, and you need to get those beliefs in order. You can do so much more than you think, but you need to isolate who you are. And then when you've done that, you have to look at the kind of person. Lots of bugs around tonight because it's been raining. You have to work out the kind of person that you want to be with. And respect is very important. Love is very important. The amount that you can agree with on that person is very important. Would you agree on major items, major decisions that would have to be made about right and wrong? And this is one of the most important that I've found, certainly for me. But don't add me as another voice. You've got enough already if you're anything like me. So you really want to be looking at what it is that you believe is important, and then try to find some agreement on that. Now, if you go for any kind of a personality test, any kind of psychological assessment, they'll give you, there are various tests out there which you can take, which are usually around 200 questions. And what they will do, you take something like this if you go for an aptitude test on from a counsellor when you're at college, and they're trying to find out what they can advise you to take as your next course. And they'll give you 200 test questions, which probably are yes, neither yes nor no, and no. And there'll be those three different ways of answering it. But they're very clever, because what they do is they cross-index the questions. So if they wanted to find out if you were, say, lying to yourself, they say, is it possible that you would be that you would try to look good in this test? You would probably say, well, probably yes, or neither yes nor no. I'd like, depending on what your answer was. And then they would cross-question that, they'd cross-index that as a way of finding out whether they've really got the right answer, which is true to you and true to your saying. So they'd say, is it possible that you could not tell the truth, or you could tell an untruth in these questions? Is it possible that you would always be honest with yourself, even if it was critical against you? So they're very cleverly worked out, and they can find ways to show whether what you're going to do next is the job for you. Now, if you can't sing a damn note in tune, then they're not going to advise that you take up the bass or something. That's obvious and an oversimplification. But there are other things where you would have perhaps exhibited something that was good with mechanics, and so they'd be looking at, say, going to a trade school rather than going to a university. So there's ways of finding out. Now, there's ways of finding out in the same way, by questions and being honest and trying to find what the other person really wants, because you want him or her to be happy. This is the thing. You want the person that you are talking to be happy with you. And you want to be happy with them. And if you have that as your goal, those two things, he or she must be happy with you, you must be happy with them. You'll be getting close to finding your happy forever. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.